God vibes only. God vibes only.
seducer.
God vibes only.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Root, and got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Oh, Hutuwapo. Doing well, brother. How about yourself?
Hey, man, no complaints, man. No complaints, man. Like I said, just trying to get like you, my brother.
Oh, brother, you there. You definitely there, King.
Hey, man, listen. I need give me a decade, man. Give me a decade and some change, man.
I hear you, brother. You're paying your dues. I hear you.
Indeed. But as always, this episode was brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all or whatnot. You can find us on Instagram at Cosmic Convo. That's CosmicConvo. Messing my talking up. Cosmic Convo on Instagram. And you can also find us at Push It Forward at PUSHITFWD on Instagram as well, or whatnot. There you can get to everything that we got going on related to this show and all the other podcasts on the Push It Forward Podcast Network. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
IG, FB, you can hit me up at Shechem Ra, or you can hit me up at calipruciaastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed. And before we get too far, almost forgot my manners. I want to make sure that you all like and subscribe to this channel, and make sure you hit that notification bell as well, or whatnot. This is very important, so you can know when we're going live or whatnot with this channel and everything else we got going on or whatnot. So yeah, man, we're almost at the end of the season or whatnot. This is episode 24 of season 4, episode 99 overall. Quick little bomb drop on that. You know what I'm saying? We one episode from that 100 episode milestone or whatnot. So this is we're doing some things over here, being consistent, keeping it going and stuff like that. What you think about that, Rod?
Yeah, 99. That's a special number, because 9 and 9 is 18, plus 1 plus 8 equal 9. So we at that precipice crossing over into to the 100th realm, right? To number 100 is definitely a milestone.
Indeed. I think today's episode is a good one to do on that note. Right there, right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Last week, since we missed the week before, we did 2 episodes last week or whatnot. I've been getting a lot of good feedback on both of those episodes last week, by the way. The personality test one, you know what I'm saying, and the one we did before that or whatnot. What's the feedback you've been getting?
Yeah, definitely good feedback as well. Audience definitely took note and chimed in. So those of you that did get a chance to watch it, spread the word, spread the message, and also, like my brother said, hit those likes because it definitely helps the algorithm so that we can get to more of a wider fan base. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you like them, YouTube recommends them. You understand what I'm saying? Just as simple as that. You share them, you subscribe, all that stuff like that. Definitely plays a role. So definitely do that or whatnot. But yeah, and then, the episode we did before that personality test episode, seems like we gotta do some more relationship related shows. We do, because they always seem to bring some people out or whatnot. So maybe next season we can probably jump into cover some more relationship topics or whatnot, because that's pretty hot on the people's mind or whatnot.
Yeah, we'll do maybe a Navamsha episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We haven't done a Navamsha episode yet.
Yeah, we'll do one of those next season. So make sure you do stay tuned, folks, because it's going to be quite to remember.
Indeed, absolutely. So, shoot, before we get rolling, you got any announcements or anything like that you want to make?
No, I'm ready to get on. I'm ready to get in. I'm ready to get this done. Ready to get for the people to be able to see what we got in store today.
All right, well, let's do it then. So, some of y'all saw the promo. You see the title for this show. We a brother, it has been definitely hitting the news pretty heavy, this past week, and stuff like that. Did a interview with another podcast, Drink Champs, and stuff like that. Shout out to them. Because this brother doesn't do that many interviews or whatnot. So he did an interview, set the internet world on fire and stuff like that, covered some things, and just brought up some other topics concerning them, whether about mental health and does he know what he's talking about, is he crazy, or different things like that. So those of you who are on Patreon, you saw that we did this 4 pillars astrology style, Batsa style or whatnot, but I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to go ahead and do this with the traditional Jyotish style or whatnot, and look at the brother Kanye West or whatnot, man. Shout out to him or whatnot. Very, very successful black entrepreneur and creator and producer and everything like that. Fashion world, hip hop, art world, all those different things. He's touched all of them, and he's quite the complicated character. And after today's show, you're gonna see exactly why or whatnot. What's your thoughts on that, Rob?
Yeah, Kanye is always, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, stayed, in people's ear. Kind of stayed a buzz amongst the hip hop community. So we're definitely going to see, why. And it's just interesting the consistency of the different types of people and personalities that we have under some similar energies, right? Because the last individual that we did really kind of tied into a similar energy, of course, in a very different way. But just interesting to see, you know what I mean, how it plays out in different ways. So you're gonna definitely get your ear full today as far as Mr. Is it Ye or Ye? Because I always get it. Is it Ye or Ye?
Yay.
Is Ye, right? Because like Kanye,
Yeah.
I guess it's abbreviated. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Ye is definitely gonna get his package unpacked today, right? For sure.
Indeed. All right. So, let me go ahead and pull this thing up. All right. So got the brother here, Kanye West. Um, born June 8th, 1977, or whatnot. Now, I do want to preface you all. This time is not 100% slam dunk, but we've looked at it, we've studied it, and it may be nudged here, nudged there, but we're pretty confident that this time is pretty good for Kanye West. What's your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, given the context of what we looked at previously, it really does tie into some very specific aspects, not only of his personality, but just of events that have happened that are notable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that this is maybe not the. I would probably have to go back and really tie it in and really rectify it, which takes a while. But based on what we rectified so far, it's a very good time. The original time that you might hear out there is right around 8:45, and it doesn't really match the disposition, nor does it match the kind of events that he's experienced. But if you really study this well enough, you'll know automatically. Like we were talking earlier, and I had a different, completely setup, and I'm like, something ain't right. Like something's not, you know what I mean? Something's not fitting, and that's when you begin to see instantly that these times are off. Right? 8:45 is just one of those times, like I said before, and you'll hear me say it again. It's rare. It happens, but it's rare that people are born on the hour, half hour, quarter hour. It's usually, a little here or a little there. So this 8:18 time that we have for you today in 8 seconds really does tie in very well to what Kanye is displaying character wise and event wise. So do your own research, study it, play with it, adjust it, do the background kind of checks, if you will, to tie in those things that really make a difference in the time. And, when we're born, the doctors, unless you're there, right? And the further back you go in time, the more you'll see that doctors really don't, it's like right when you write out the birth certificate or when you're making your doctor's notes. Oh,
What time
8:45.
was it? Yeah,
Right,
he asked
right,
somebody. What time was it?
right.
I think.
It's like 8:45. Yeah, that sounds about right, right. But
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
the birth canal was opening, the baby was out and took a breath, and then, they do the cleanup because I've been at all three of my children's births. And it's a very, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it on my watch, right, and on a digital clock to make sure that it's right and exact. And they will get your they'll get your child's time of birth, get your time of birth wrong, right, if you're not keen. So
I
definitely,
just screenshot it when my daughter was born. I like screenshot
bam, right,
it
right,
right at the moment when she took that
exactly.
breath.
You got it. So do
Yeah.
those things, make sure if you do have children, the opportunity that gives you the time of birth, take advantage, but just note that even my time of birth was wrong, right? By 5 minutes. So, you just have to sometimes understand that when those times of births are produced, it's not like the doctor's really looking exactly at when the baby comes out and takes his first breath. So we've adjusted it, and it is 8:18. It fits very, very well, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. So,
Indeed.
getting started, right? Owani, you can see, right? You got an opportunity to see. He's Gemini ascendant, and if you've been following Kanye and know, some things about him, it definitely ties in very well, right? That Gemini has that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde disposition all the way, right? Can flip the script at a moment's notice, right?
Right.
Uh, I mean, interestingly enough, when I actually looked at it earlier when we were talking about, we kind of had it off, it was Cancer ascendant. I'm like, that is not Kanye, right? That doesn't fit, right? Where this Gemini is a and lock, stock, and barrel, right? Fits not only just for the simple fact that of his kind of um, you know, switcheroo disposition, but just from the simple fact that he is a hip hop artist. He's a rapper. And it's interesting, right? We see, Mercury slash setback on the case again, right? It's here, right? Like I
Right.
said, interestingly enough, right? We've had this kind of somewhat similar scenario previously with this energy abounding, but hip hop artists definitely just when we look at Ice Cube, when we look at a lot of different ones, they just have that gift of gab, the ability to use words in a very creative and poetic way. So it does fit perfectly with what he does and produces as far as his skill sets are concerned. Um, Interestingly enough, and here's the thing: one of the things that we do look at in looking at a horoscope or a chart is that what sign is the ascendant lord in? It's in Taurus, right? Which is it's Venus ruled, right? Venus is all about creativity, right? Music, fine arts, right? Um, those are the things that we can clearly see, right? That he does bring to the table, bar none. Um, However, the nakshatra that he's born under, really, it behooves us to look at it from an Ardra perspective, because Ardra is a lot of the intensity, a lot of the unexpected kind of disposition that he produces. Ardra also creates a type of electric feel
Hmm.
around his particular aura. And when you're around, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the haircut that he has, right? That, that's
That's so
Ardra.
true. That's what she said. Who cut your hair, boy?
Like, did you do that on purpose, or did you, right? Did you what
he,
you did
he,
you
he been rocking that for a little second. He said he called it. He's in the interview. He said he called it the Britney. You remember when Britney Spears
Right, right,
went
right.
and
And
he
and
cut
if you're lining with Britney Spears, right, right, and we already did a special on her, right, where she's got this whole conservatorship that's you know, gone viral.
right,
Um, you know, she's not, I don't say wrapped too tight, but there's a few floors missing from the building, right, if you
right.
will. So that really ties into the Gemini and the Ardra. It really makes sense. Purnavasu can also, excuse me one second. Purnavasu can also kind of do some similar things, but Purnavasu has a lot more placid disposition, right? Ardra
Right.
really does fit very, very, very well, especially looking at some of the other things that are happening within the other charts that we have, as far as the Navamsha and the D4. So the ascendant lord goes to the 12th house, right? Some things about the 12th house you may or may not know. The 12th house deals with neurotic tendencies, right? Um, right. And no, there's no other planets in his ascendant. Doesn't have to be, right? His ascendant lord, where it goes, creates a whole nother platform. And that 12th house being neurotic tendencies, you know what neurotic tendencies are, is where you know you do one thing and then you do another and you do another, almost within the same you know hour, 10 minutes, 15-minute time period. It's just you have a very, I don't want to say crazy, right, but a very erratic, right, and changeable nature. That's what the 12th house will do.
Well,
S- right, it's neurotic, it's
yeah,
neurosis, right, right.
right.
um the 12th house is um where you can be placed in an asylum, right? That's what the 12th house is, right?
My bad. It's just going.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Um, 12th house is hospitalization.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. Go ahead.
It's all good. 12th house is sanatoriums, right? asylums where neurotic tendencies are, of course, high on high display, right? So, clearly, seeing that this is how he's built, right? He has a disposition to lose it, as they say, right? And the 12th house deals with self undoing, loss, right? Um, it's really a house that a lot of times people will seek isolation. And it's interesting, my brother, you said, right? He doesn't do interviews that often, right?
No.
Considering, right?
Hmm.
Not only that, he's got three other planets there, right? He's got Jupiter, right? And Sun. So, this is another telltale that someone that has this kind of disposition with the Ascendant Lord has a type of unstable type disposition or character, especially with, of course, Gemini being the Ascendant. Now, his Ascendant Lord is in Kritika, right? And Kritika is that part of Taurus that is no joke, right? It is an intense part of Taurus.
Right.
It's very sharp, very determined, um, almost relentless to a degree, right? So, it makes sense that his ascendant lord would be placed in this particular nakshatra because that then shapes further the ascendant in the sense that that fiery energy comes to the surface, right? And the sun which rules Kritika is in the same house, in the 12th house of losing your mental composure. Mercury is also the planet of what? Your intellect and your ability to process information properly. So a
Right.
lot of times creative people are just that way. You know what I mean? Like creative people are just that type of, the creative, right? They kind of go here, they go there. Not all, but many, right?
Right.
S- So it just ties in very, very well with his characterization.
I got a good example of that. Right. Queued up. It started trying to go off before me, but
Let's hear it.
We got to
Let's
both
hear
sign
it.
that contract. Mark Parker. I'm going to put Mark Parker all on that Summer Jam screen. And by the way, Mark Parker, yes, I will still accept an investment in Donda. I got some more ideas that don't involve shoes. But if you guys are investing in the arts, y'all want to invest in this school in Brazil, y'all want to go to Africa, I'm standing up and I'm telling you, Warhol, I am the number one most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. Now, who's going to be the Medici family and stand up and let me create more? Or do you want to marginalize me till I'm out of my moment?
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got
forward
the
to
answers,
step
man. You ain't got the answers.
Kanye.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye.
I've been doing this more than you.
Doing what
You
more
ain't
than
got.
me? Come on, chill out.
You
bro.
ain't got the
Kanye,
answers. You
relax.
ain't got the
Bro,
answers.
I'm asking you
You
a
ain't been doing the education.
Bro,
You ain't been doing the education.
Calm down.
You don't have the answers though.
Calm down.
Because you trying to give me advice about
No,
something.
no,
You ain't
listen.
got the answer. You ain't spent $13 million of your
I
own
know
money
you're
trying to
absolutely
empower
right.
yourself.
Yes, but I spent hundreds of thousands and doing putting out clothing lines at a smaller degree. All I'm asking you,
And then it ain't no Ralph though. It ain't
Ralph.
Ralph
Let
level.
me ask you this.
What's the name of the clothing line? We don't know.
Man,
he said
man,
it ain't Ralph though.
wow. You see what I'm saying? Like half of that didn't even make sense, right? It was like, what you're doing, going to do what, where, and how, and what, and that intensity is that Kritika, right? Kritika can be quite adamant about how they feel, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see this, right? It plays out to the T. Just imagine, a Gemini with a sharp edge, right? He has that disposition, and then Ardra just puts the cherry on top, you know.
Right. Right.
So, go figure, right? That this individual has a very heartfelt, right? He feels what he's talking about, can't deny that. But the instability is quite evident, and neurotic or neurosis type behavior patterns are displayed. At some point they were talking about even putting him, um, in a special place, right? I believe his mate or wife at the time, Kim Kardashian, was talking about he needs to be placed into a special place, right? 12th house place. And
Right.
I could see to some degree what would be the reasoning behind saying something like that, especially if you're living in close quarters with this type of individual. Um,
I mean, looking at him, and like I said, just I went over this on the Patreon. One thing you just it's just like it's like you have so much that's in your head, so much that's just running through your mind and all this stuff like that, and you don't know what to do with all of it. You know what I mean? So then it just explodes. It just, you know what I mean? It's like I got this, and like, all right, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna run. This came to my mind. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna do that. I want to do this. I want to. You know what I mean? And it's it's
yeah,
intense.
yeah,
You know?
definitely, definitely, and hopefully, what I mean, drugs aren't your friend, right? If you're doing them, what I mean, that definitely gonna creates a further mental instability. Um, so it just shows, a lot of uh, telltale signs that this is his setup, this is his makeup. Um, Even looking at the moon, right? And moon is in the ninth. It's in Aquarius. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and here's the thing, folks. When you look at a chart, when you look at a horoscope, you're looking at it from the same thing, but from different perspectives, different layers. So you pull one layer back, you pull one layer back, or you add a layer, you superimpose layers, right? Then you
Right.
get a good understanding of what you're looking at. So a couple of things happens with the moon. Number one, his mental disposition. He is a very intelligent individual. You don't get this far with having a lack of mental ability, right? When I say mental ability, I mean the ability to process things from a higher perspective, right?
Right.
Um, However, right, it is an Aquarius, right? And Aquarius is one of those signs that is quirky, right? It's odd, right?
Right.
It's different,
Mm-hmm.
eclectic, right? Pulls from different places, different spaces, all at the same time. Like you were talking about having all of those things come in and filter, try to come out at once, right? Um, but the moon is the heart, right? It's the emotional characterization of an individual, and so his heart, right, is just that. It's very um, uh, out of touch and almost touching on a borderline of futuristic type of settings, right? If you look at it, the shoes that he produces, I remember back in, 90s, right, 80s, you would see kind of in fact, if you look at what's the Back to the Future, right, type
Right.
movies, right, they always show the future as everyone wearing this kind of weird, like haircut with weird glasses, and actually we are there. I mean, it has played itself out to a great degree, but
Right.
his shoe line is
Like
that
right on
has
par.
that look, right? Has that
Right.
futuristic kind of, you know, energy to it. And so it makes sense because the moon is in that type of sign. The Aquarius kind of is before their time, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, so the other thing
And that
though, go ahead.
and that nakshatra, man. He has a lot of
Well,
he's
I was about to go there, right? You said it, I didn't, right?
hmm
Purva Bhadrapada is that nakshatra that has two faces, right? Not to say they're two faced. It's not what I mean. It means that they have a side that they show and a side that they don't show. But because of this Gemini disposition, right, his innate characterization just flips the script. So it comes out, right? It releases. And the ninth house is a visible house, right? From the first house to the seventh house, well, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth are hidden houses, right?
hmm
Right. Seventh, And seventh is both, because seventh can be above and below the horizon. So 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 and 12 are all visible houses. They're actually seen in the sky. And so his dispositions are on his characterizations and his personality kind of curvatures are on display. So it's hard to hide that moon. Hard to hide his emotional disposition. But Purva Bhadrapada gives him that intensity. The deity of Purva Bhadrapada is called Eka. Um, um, I don't even go there. It's called a fire dragon, right? A fire dragon, right? Meaning that it's an intense nakshatra. It's very fierce. The totem for it is a male lion, right? So you can see that type of energy when he comes from his heart, right? From his emotions, from his experiences and how he filters reality. This is what you're getting, is that intensity from the fire dragon nakshatra, right? So he has a lot of fire, even though you don't see fire signs. And actually, there is a planet in fire sign, is Mars and Venus, 2 planets, in fact, right? In fact, those 2 planets, right, which, and it's the planet that rules Mercury, is conjunct Mars by degree, right? So he's got some heat that he produces. Nakshatras have a way to produce things that is different than the expected outcome, right? Purva Bhadrapada is one of the nakshatras that really can bring home a lot of insanity, right? I'd say he's insane, but the nakshatra can be one that's hard to handle if the planets aren't placed very well. And the ruler of the nakshatra is Jupiter. And look what house it's in, right? It's in the 12th house, right? Of those neurotic tendencies. So there's a lot going on here, right? With the 12th house. Lot going on with the 12th house. A lot of unstable or destabilizing type of situations that he brings forth, right? Um, the other thing is, interesting enough, the moon is also your mother, right? And mom, brother, we saw it earlier, right? Mom is what? She's a what?
Professor.
PhD. Well, the ninth
Doctor.
house is PhDs.
Right.
See, it fits perfectly, right? There's Purva Bhadrapada, right? Yeah, right. It's not a lightweight nakshatra, folks, right? It's not. It's not an easy tiptoe energy. It's either all or what,
Nothing.
right? And they can come off very intellectual too, you know, a very controlled to some degree nakshatra, but also very uncontrolled. It has a very serious, deep, dark side to it. But nonetheless, the moon is in the 9th house in a Jupiter ruled nakshatra. So isn't it interesting that the mother is a PhD? I find that very, very, very telling. That is crazy the way it's put like that, right? His father even was a Black Panther, right? Come to find out. Father was also very intelligent, right? So, and the 9th house is also father, right? So, mother and father were together at some point, I'm sure, and had a major impact on his life. But the moon being in that house, in that intellectual sign, gives a real strong indication of how his mother is constructed, right? In fact, if you look at it from the moon, if we put the moon as the ascendant, as a Chandra Lagna, check out what happens with the moon, right? Right. If we put that up there, right, we got it up here, we can see that, right? Look at 4th from the moon. This is how you also see the mother, right? 4th house from the moon, right? Look at those 3 planets in there, right? Again, showing that the mother is very, very well what? Educated,
Educated. Yep.
right? Strong education, strong background. I mean, when his music speaks to his rebelliousness. The moon is in Aquarius, which is a rebellious nakshatra. I mean, a rebellious sign, right? And the most rebellious of all is Purvabhadrapada. In fact, it rules rebels, right? But remember one of the songs, and think about his background, folks. Think about where he comes from, right? His mother's educated, right? PhD educated, right? An English teacher, right? And in fact, if you look at it, her education, right, is in the third, because the Lord of the fourth from the moon goes to the third house, and the third house is the house of what? Right? Communication. She's an English professor, right? Crazy, right? And then Mars rules the third, which conjoins the fourth lord. So it shows clearly that this woman has a high level of intellect, because the third house also ties into the intellect as well. So that, number one, is his background, his upbringing. But remember, the moon is in Aquarius, so his mindset is rebellion. What
Right.
was one of his first albums?
College dropout.
You
He's
see what
his
I'm?
first person. He was the first person, because now people, college don't have the same pizzazz that it used to.
It used to,
Maybe
right?
like 10, 15 years ago or so. You know what I'm saying? He was the first person to come. It was controversial. His position on college was controversial because at that time it was like, what do you know what I mean? That was a high feat. That was something that was, everybody looked forward to. When he came out, like, nah, bump college. I'm cool. You understand what I'm saying? He had the skits in there. The one skit where his
Right.
the dad was hold on. He
Right.
said he had all those degrees, all those PhDs, and he died. And he
Right.
was like, my his son was like, my dad didn't leave me any money. He didn't leave me anything, but I have his degrees. I'm gonna be the smartest broke person that you
Crazy.
ever seen.
Look, man, that's what I'm saying. Rebellious. Like, look, bump
Right,
that. Y'all did this. I'm gonna do this, right?
right,
But very intelligent. I mean, I'm not saying he's not an intelligent individual by far, right?
yeah,
But this is how he's built. This is how you can see, when public figures put their lives are on display. It gives us an edge in seeing how the chart is constructed to a great degree.
right,
So, you know, um, and again, you see all of the planets with the exception of one, right? All of them are in, the public houses. So his life is literally on display. So, you know, it shows clearly, right, that the moon, right, is bar none, right, a tell all for his waywardness against how he was raised and where he comes from. Um,
right,
in fact, if you look at it from another perspective, the second house is your upbringing. And I'm sure that, growing up in a house where your mother has think about this. And I don't know if you remember, Tev, like English wasn't like my best subject. I didn't do bad in it, but it wasn't like, I was a shining star of the English, English lit classes. You know what I mean? Right.
mm-hmm,
So think about how it would feel because he's from our generation, right? Think about how it feels from our generation's perspective to grow up in that environment. It's very restrictive, right?
right,
Very disciplined, very structured. Mars even aspects the second house from the 11th. So that discipline and that structure that he had caused a rebellion, which there's an exchange between the second and the ninth house, right? That exchange creates the exchange. Hey, I was brought up this way, but guess what? I'm gonna do what? Go the opposite,
right,
right? And so that Saturn being there, also puts aspect on the fourth house, which puts pressure on the fact that you need to go to what?
School. You need to go to college.
But Rahu is there.
Mm-hmm.
And Rahu is also the planet of what? Rebellion.
Rebellion.
Right. I'm not going to college. I'm a rapper.
Dropout.
Right. I'm a rapper that's gonna rap about not going to college. Now how about that? Right.
Right. You ain't got the answers.
Take that with you. Right. He said you ain't got the answers, right? Wow, he's a wild kid, man. Right. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You can see it. So his heart, the fourth house is your heart, what you feel. And Rahu is a force that is to be reckoned with along the terms of, or along the indications of, literally having that feeling of going against the grain. You say something, I'm gonna say the what?
Say the
Right.
other thing.
In order to get the right answer, you probably have to agree with him, so he'll say the opposite, right? The Gemini disposition, right?
Right.
So, this is a clear indication. And not only that, if you look at it again from the moon's perspective, the sun is in the fourth house as well, right? So we can look at father from that perspective also, right? The sun is conjunct Jupiter, also showing that the father has a lot of influence along the lines of knowledge and education. So this is a big part of why he started off with that album as the seed, right, of his career, his profession, his lineup, his musical lineup, right? That hey, I'm gonna do it my way, right? I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. But he does come from individuals that are very sharp, keen, and intellectually oriented.
Right.
Some other things that we look at here, is when you see the seventh lord, the seventh house, it's Jupiter, right? It's Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, right? His first wife is from another racial background, or she's foreign. I believe the Kardashians are from which country? They come from
Armenia.
Armenia. Yeah, they're Armenian, right? Interestingly enough, right? And then
The original white folks.
the real deal, close to the Caucasus, right? Knocking on the door, right? Right. When you look at that, and not only that, let's make this. Can you make the seventh house the first house?
Right. Boom.
Look at where that house, that planet goes. It goes into the sixth from itself, right? So that means that the wife also has an animosity towards you. Right? The divorce is almost beset the first marriage, and she comes from a foreign background. 12th house from the ascendant, but 6th from the 7th. Not only that, right? Looking at it, when you look at the Lord of where it is, she's had quite a few plastic surgeries, hasn't she? Right.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at this, look at it from the perspective that Lord, right, is in the 12th from the 6th, which is the 5th. So this is also a telltale that the wife goes under the knife, right? Venus, right, is conjunct Mars. And it rules, right? It rules from the wife's perspective, right? The 12th from herself, right? Well,
And
go ahead.
and Ashwini.
Exactly. So she goes under the knife. Mars rules the 12th from the 7th. and it's conjuncting Venus, which is the sixth from from Sag, right? So it shows a lot of surgery, right? This is just with the way you begin to unlock. Like I said, we look at the chart in layers, right? We look at the chart in layers.
Right.
So, right, it's just all around, right? If you put back the chart back to the ascendant, right? Let's look at the first child, which is the fifth house. The first child is a girl, right?
Right.
And the fifth lord is conjunct what? Venus
Venus.
by degree. So you see what I mean? This is a clear tell-all of this man's spiritual disposition, his life, his children, his wife, right? First wife now, right? His mother, his father, right? All of these things can be seen as we've just seen, right? Um, let's look at some other things. Let's look at some time frames to kind of understand the dasha schemes, right, and what has transpired in his life thus far. Um, one key indication that we always look at is the loss of someone, right? Be it mother, be it family member, child, um, wife, all those things, right, can be seen. Um, and even before we even go there, right, he had an accident that was interesting, right? It wired his jaw shut, right? The accident happened in 2000, and was it 2002,
2.
right? Let's take a look at that and see what we find, right, in that frame, right? Right. Saturn, right, is the dasha. Mars is the antardasha, right? You know those two planets are what?
Those are which
They're
one from each
enemies.
other? Yeah.
So when you run a dasha scheme, you want to see the planets and how they fare with one another, just off the rip, right? Just to say what is it's like oil and water, right? Do they or air and fire? Do they mix or do they contrast? And Mars and Saturn and Mars are big. They're the most contrasting planets of all of the pantheon, right?
War. Yeah.
So Saturn, right, is the dasha, right? Saturn rules the eighth house, and the eighth house, my brother, is
Transitions.
transformations,
Yeah.
death-like circumstances, right? And Mars, right, rules the sixth house, which is also accidents.
Right.
Now, what
And
happens?
they
Go ahead.
aspect each other too.
Oh, wait, we haven't even got there yet, brother. Right.
Okay.
Right. But in this time frame, the physical part of the body is going to be affected where those planets are.
Right.
Where is Saturn placed?
Second house.
Which it rules the what?
The mouth.
Right. Mars aspects the what?
The mouth.
So there's an accident that ensues, right? That affects the face specifically, right? The mouth. And we know it's the mouth because it's between 20 degrees and 30 degrees. And that part of the second house is the mouth, right?
Right.
Between 10 degrees and 20 degrees is the what?
Nose, like the Yeah,
right?
that probably
And
face
between
back.
0 degrees to 10 degrees is
Forehead. Forehead.
the eyes and the
Or
eyes, right? The second 10 to 20 is also the ears, right? This is how we use what's called drekinas, right? Or decante in order to see what happens in a house. Not only that, right? Mars aspecting Saturn puts a very intense energy that shuts his mouth. Right? He has to talk like this. And he actually did a record like that. He was so in his drive is so much his drive is so strong that he did a hip hop he did an album when his mouth was wired shut
right.
during the Saturn Dasha period. So you see what I
So
mean?
you, some people think they're gonna shut him up now. No, no way.
You think you gonna be really? No, not gonna happen, Captain. Right? Because right, that disposition, Mercury alone is how you communicate. It's your mouthpiece. And look,
Right.
not only that, where does the third lord go?
12.
So he loses by the means of his what? Self-expression in both ways. I'm telling you, it's crazy, right? But even though he loses, he still gains to some degree, right?
Right.
But like it doesn't matter his fumble of his word, the fumbling of his mouth still doesn't stop, right? His ability to gain. And that gain, look at it from this perspective, people. The 11th Lord is in the 11th house.
Well, it's interesting that during this, well, it was recorded prior to, but during this time period, he had just did all those beats for the blueprint, for Jay-Z's album. You understand what I'm saying? A little shortly before, maybe a year or so before this actual accident happened or whatnot.
Wow.
This is right at that, Saturn is giving him throwing him some interesting.
Well, Saturn for Gemini ascendant, right, is a very interesting planet because Saturn means that the Gemini has to learn or gains knowledge through the 8th house. See, Gemini likes to experiment, is what it is. This is how it works. And so Gemini likes to experiment, they like to play, right? They like to try new things. They like to go and have a range of experiences where Saturn, because it rules the ninth, says, hey, well, all those experiences that you go through, that experimentation, right? Once you learn how you go through those things and you're going to create a fall for yourself, right? Once the fall happens, you gain what?
Perspective,
Knowledge,
yeah.
right? See, they have to go through things to bring them closer to God. You can tell them all day. You can say things, you can tell them 1,000 things. They have to experiment. Once they make a mistake, then they get closer to God. And isn't it so interesting now all of his albums are titled after Jesus, right? Jesus is king, right? His name is Yeh, and he said that Yeh was the most common thing in the King James Version. So, right, since Yeh, I am you, Yeh is you, and I am you. So it's all religious connotation. Then he says, I'm not a Christian at one point. Then he turns around and says, I am a Christian. This flip flop nature of the Gemini ascendant.
Right.
But the planet that Saturn, the houses that Saturn rules, gives them that experience. They go through something, they transform, and they come out on the other side, and now they have a closer relationship with God. This is what Gemini does. It's the only sign that does it. Right. Saturn rules the 8th house of deep research, intensity, transformational processes, right? things that are death-like, right? Scandals, scams, exposure, right? But also through the fire, they come out on the other side and they have a stronger connection with stability in their connection with God than their connection
Hey,
with the supreme being.
that's funny that you even just said that, because at first that first big song that he had, I mean, as far as just popular, was "Through the Wire" when he sampled "Through the Fire" from Shaka Khan.
Isn't that crazy? And that's when his jaw was what?
Wired shut, yeah.
See how it works?
Right.
I mean, this is it, folks. This is his setup. This is what we call destiny, right? So, and we won't be too long-winded tonight because we definitely have been quite uh, we've gone quite deep in the past. But tonight we'll leave it a little lighter, right? Just so that you can go back and do some of your own research for yourself. But this is a key tell-all for how things unfold. Mars, Saturn, Dasha, accident, jaw wired shut, right? Saturn, Moon, creation of a high end, the blueprint, which is a very potent. I mean, I still love the blueprint to this day, right?
Right.
Classic album, Saturn, Moon in the ninth, right? And that intent, and also the other thing that Gemini likes to go in deep as far as their information. They like to research. They like to find little knacks and tricks and of what they do. Right? They're the jack of
Trades.
all trades, right? So the eighth house gives them their knowledge. They go in deep and they come out with these profound kind of different ways of looking at things because Aquarius is in the ninth. So not only that, right? When we look at this from a Dasha period perspective, the next major change that he has is when he loses his mother.
Right.
And she's lost, and check this out, folks. If you look at the Dasha scheme, right, she's lost when Saturn Jupiter hits, right? Saturn Jupiter is what we call a Dasha Sandhi. It's when things switch from or switching from one phase of life to another. Interestingly enough, right? Jupiter is in the what? 12th
12.
house, right? It's a tell all because Saturn is going to give him an experience that again will do what? Transform him and bring him closer to the supreme being, closer to God. Well, this occurs in a Saturn, Jupiter, Venus Dasha period, right? We look at this from the perspective that Venus, right, is with the planet Mars. Now, it's interesting because when we look at it back from the moon again, when we push it back over and we're looking at the experiences from his mental composure, his mind, because the moon, the Chandra Lagna, is a chart that we look at of how you feel in that time. This is how he's feeling, right? But also, we also can see it from the person's mother and their experiences as well. And when you look at it, right, check it out, right? This particular period shows that from the moon's perspective, we see that that Saturn is in the sixth house, right? So for the mother, she's dealing with something that is oriented around her what? Her health,
Health.
right? Now, Jupiter, right, which is in the fourth, is affecting or going to deal with the area in which this particular apparatus is going to happen. This health thing is going to take place. And the fourth house is the what?
Chess.
Now, well, Ra, yeah, right. Like, how do you know it's that? Because the fourth house is ruled by Venus. And where is Venus placed? in the third,
The third.
which is hands, but it's dealing with Mars. And Mars is what? Surgery.
Surgery.
See, she didn't have to go under the knife. She didn't have to. That was a choice that she made. It was to enhance her, right? But nonetheless, the fourth from the moon is also the mother, and this particular planet is in the 12th from the fourth. So 12th house deals with loss through surgery. This is how you can clearly see that at that Saturn, Jupiter, Venus dasha, that's when he loses his mother. And that is the ending of the dasha sequence for Saturn. So Saturn rules the 8th and the 9th, now changing him again into a whole new being. The 8th house is the chrysalis process. It's a butterfly effect. It's the caterpillar to the butterfly. In between is the chrysalis, right? This was a very hard time for Kanye West, folks. This was a very difficult thing to face, that you lose your mother, not from something that would, and of course, loss is loss. It doesn't matter how. But I'm saying just the fact that, we always look back, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Maybe had I not paid for the surgery, because he paid for this. He's the one that paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not paid for my mom's surgery, would she still be here? Had I encouraged my mom that, and of course we all have our choices, but at the same time, right, the impact on him, his mindset, right, is very, remember, the Saturn also rules the 12th from the what? From the moon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So major loss, major transformation, major rearranging of his whole life is happening at this particular point in time. So this is how we know, right, that the dasha sequences, the Vimshatari dasha, which is the king of dashas, is superior, right, to most other dashas, right? It is in my estimation, the best.
Right. And that's that.
So,
That Ashwini again.
yeah,
Surgery.
quick,
Mm-hmm.
instant loss of the fourth. Not only loss of the fourth of the mother, but the heart. She had a heart issue. In fact, they even passed a law. Arnold Schwarzenegger passed a law from her. From this is just go check it out, right? There's a law passed behind her death, that you have to have clearance, medical clearance, before you go under the knife.
Right.
So again, major impact on this fella, right? Another big piece, right, we see is when Mercury dasha ensues. Now, Mercury rules the ascendant, and the ascendant is your identity, is you, right? In a chart, you want to look at all. Of course, the whole chart is you. But if we had to pick a house that would be like you, it's the first house. It's your identity. This is when he begins to change his what? Change his name.
It's the same. Yeah.
Right. And
Easy.
Right, Yeezy, and right, all these different type of name changes. Well, Mercury is the planet that deals in what? Names. What you call yourself, what you articulate yourself as, right? And it is conjunct Mercury, which is the ascendant Lord, right? So this loss or sacrifice or giving up of or moving on, of course, this is all, right, constituently, right, part of this process. However, in 2009, this was the quote unquote one of the most controversial, right, times when he went on stage, right, and snatched the mic from Taylor Swift and made the announcement that Beyonce should be the real winner of the award, right, the MTV award, or for whatever category, right. They put him out the show, right, but literally Mercury dasha is when also he becomes even more vocal, right, even more outspoken. His words can create even more controversy.
I got it queued up.
Let's check it out, right?
Hold on. Get past this ad.
Michael Jackson was a human being, but damn it, he was a king. Long live the king.
The MTV Video Music Awards took place on Sunday night on Green Day for rock video. A music controversy.
I'm gonna let you finish. Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
Right.
His
This
haircut was wild on that one too.
Was it? You see,
Yeah.
that's that Critica's the cut, y'all. Right. Right. And the first house is the head too, right? So you know
Right.
what I mean. Crazy stuff, right? But interesting, right, is that when he's in this Mercury, and he's still in the Mercury Dasha, people, he's there right now, right? Doing some very interesting things. Um, it just shows, right, that Mercury is creating this kind of neurotic process because it's the 12th house, right? Unprecedented, unwarranted, out of nowhere, right? This guy comes up and makes this statement, right? That all of a sudden, right, he's the one that's going to make the call about who should have the best R&B, right, video award or what have you. It's just insane, right?
But here's the thing though, right? People be saying it. Some people at home was probably saying the same thing, like,
Right,
"Oh,
he'll
she
speak
got it
right,
on."
right. So he was saying what a lot of people were feeling, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. That is the truth, man. That is for sure. But just to note that Mercury is a planet that's gonna give you that process to say what what you feel, right? Say what's on your mind. Say
Right.
what others might want to say. So, and remember, he has Rahu in the fourth, right? And Mercury carries that Rahu energy of rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I mean? It's all there. It's all a tell-all for him. When did he get married to Kim Kardashian? When did that? When was that? When did that take place? Was that? I want to say 2012, but I think it was before that, wasn't it?
He got married in 2014.
Well, take a look at the Dasha sequence, folks. Right? What's the Dasha sequence? Right? He's in a Mercury what?
So Mercury Dasha and
Venus Antar Dasha, right?
yep.
Marriage. Right? Marriage. See? This stuff doesn't defer, it doesn't change, it doesn't go anywhere else. It's set. Right? They just recently got divorced, didn't they?
They're not divorced yet. I don't think
They're
officially.
separated, right?
Yeah.
Um, I believe it was this year.
Yeah.
Was it Mercury Jupiter, right? Mercury Jupiter, right? Jupiter is opposite. It's the house of opposition, but it also is the 10th house, and the 10th is the 12th from Venus, right? So again, the dasha sequences add up like mathematics. This is mathematics at its best, right? This is why we call it. Me and this brother will call it a science till we meet the grave, because it's a science. You can see things once you have the right input, the right data, the right time frames. This is what you will see. Now, before we go, Atef and my brother we were talking about what can we expect when we see this K2 Dasha coming up, right? Because it's coming. And if y'all thought Rahu was something, tilt your hat, right? Because K2 right, is that plus some. K2 is very intense. And so there may be some things that will come up around. I don't want to say anything to put things out into the ethers in the sense of what, you know, would it just let's just say that he can lose it even further.
Mm-hmm.
Losing it by way of something happening to someone close to him. I don't like, we are very careful as astrologers to say things because we can see, but we don't want to say because we want to leave it up to um, Kanye and the Supreme Being to really hearken and hone in on what um, they can do to offset those things, right? But K2 is going to be very intense, very challenging, especially along the lines of his profession / career. You might notice that he um, goes to some very profound extremes because it is in a nakshatra that is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury rules his ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Mercury's K2 is in Pisces. Pisces is also the 12th house or 12th sign, rather. Right. So, we could see some things that might sit him down or call him to take a back seat, not in the sense of loss in the financial sense, but in the emotional and mental sense. It's just some things that we, should be looking out for as indicators of what destiny holds. But at this point, I think we've done Kanye, right, a pretty good breakdown as far as what we've seen in his destiny and what it holds. What do you think, brother?
Indeed, indeed. One other thing I wanted to ask you, what do you think about because he also has a lot of land. He acquired a lot of land during this Mercury Dasha.
Mm-hmm.
I think he owns like over 12,000 acres.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Out a lot of it's in Montana and like Wyoming, places like that. He owns a whole bunch of acres out there. You know what I'm saying? In this Mercury Dasha, I believe he acquired most of this in this Mercury Dasha. What do you think about that?
Makes sense. Just from the simple fact that Mercury rules the fourth house, which is fixed tax. Well, not fit, but it's immovable property, right?
Right.
Um, it's in Taurus, right, which is wealth and possessions. He identifies with his wealth and possessions. Believe me, right? He does. In fact, because Mercury is in Capricorn, Navamsha, right? Um, in fact, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's in Mercury Navamsha. Capricorn Navamsha, excuse me. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is also a key indicator of immovable property. Saturn aspects the fourth house of immovable property. So I definitely see that it makes sense for him to make that acquisition uh, during this Mercury Saturn dasha coming up. He might build some things on there.
Mm-hmm.
Might put up some housing. Might build a studio. Might build something that would really indicate um, exactly my brother Isaac. It does aspect the fourth. Um, he might, do something that's different because no one, you know, wants to go to Wyoming. I mean, I live in Colorado, and we're not talking about going to Wyoming anytime at any time point. It's nothing up there, but uh, uh, tundra and tumbleweeds. You know what I mean? It's just not a place where, you know what I mean. I don't know why he bought it. It's strange. Like he has some very odd
I mean,
behavior, right?
well,
But
I mean, it's wide open. There's no one out there. I mean, like they have.
yeah,
I mean, you can own. I mean, you like 12,000 acres is not that hard to get out there. You understand what I'm
right,
saying?
right. Right.
And
Right.
from my understanding, he's been recording all his music out there for at least the past 5 or so years.
Out there, really?
And he flies all the artists in out there.
That
And
makes
they go,
see what I'm saying?
they come, yeah.
You said it, I didn't, right? Right. I didn't even know that, right? I'm just saying I had no clue of that. And think about it. The 4th floor goes to the 12th, which is an isolate place, right?
Right.
So he buys land that's nowhere, right? And then, does his music, like you said, music production. That's interesting, right? So he may develop it. It may become like a Paisley Park type deal, like Prince or, I just found it very interesting that he said he's the most influential hip hop artist because I've never bought one Kanye album, right? Ever, right? If I'd never bought a Kanye album, I don't think I'd miss out, right? I mean, I've heard his music, but it's not, when I hear his music, it's not eye-opening or mind-shattering, right? It's Kanye, right? That's who he is. So I say Ice Cube has more impact to me than Kanye does, right? Just because the way Ice Cube
I mean,
has,
it's generational because there's a lot of.
It
I mean,
is.
yeah, because there's a lot of people that don't know Ice Cube rap.
right? True. You know
what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I mean,
But I mess with Kanye though.
he's born in 77, right? So he's not, he's a few years difference than us, right? He's not that much. I mean, he's not.
Well, way different from me.
Well, yeah, you're a young cat, right? Right. I'm a little older. He's just a few years younger than me, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, I guess it would be generationally speaking, but I mean, definitely even speaking to his creative ability and his line of it's a trip because Mars is conjunct Venus in the 11th, and Venus is the planet of guess what, right? Clothing, right?
Right.
Good looking, Isaac on the Paisleys, right? Yeah, I do rock these, right? I like these Paisleys. This old school thing, but definitely I got a few in my closet. But he makes his money from clothing, a lot of it, and music too, right? Venus is music, clothing, right? Right. So you could see, right? And people say, what's the 12th Lord? But when you understand what we call functional benefics and malefics, each ascendant has a relationship with the planet. Venus rules the 12th house, which is a neutral house, but neutral houses take on the energy effect of the house that is co-ruled by, and Venus rules a trine, so it becomes therefore a benefic for Gemini ascendant. So Venus is a benefic planet that gives a lot of, and of course, creativity, which is the 5th house, right? And it's literally conjunct Mars by degree, so that's where he makes a lot of his money from.
Right.
So you can see again another point of how, right, this comes to play. So the chart is full of these things to explore, but all in all, right, this is definitely this man's destiny. So definitely shout out to you, Kanye, if you take a look, brother. Give me a call so you can get some better navigation skills with the word set. Right, we might be able to help you out.
Indeed. Yeah, man. So I think this was another classic for sure, or whatnot. Again, shout out to the brother Kanye or whatnot. He was, when I was in high school, Kanye was coming up. So I'm a young buck. So that we Kanye, we was listening to Kanye for sure. It's definitely his earlier stuff or whatnot. He got some bangers, man. New Slaves, stuff like he always come. I think he's the one who really he shifted the way how rappers dressed. You understand what I'm saying? Because prior to him, everybody was wearing, everybody was sagging, right? Big, we was wearing 4X tees. We was wearing tall. I'm talking about my generation. We was wearing tall tees and stuff like that. And then when Kanye came on the scene, everybody started rocking the polos again, but they were rocking them fitted because even when they was rocking polos back in the day or heel figure, they was still kind of big. You understand what I'm saying? Or whatnot. So he just kind of shifted the whole way that rappers was dressing And also, again, he elevated non-gangster rap
True, right.
or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody had to be. I mean, you still got gangster rap still exists, but there's another genre of rap that that has roles where everybody ain't got to be a gangster now. You understand what I'm saying? And still be just as successful as the other rappers. You know what I'm saying?
That's relevant. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely got his niche, and he's here to stay. It's just gonna be interesting to see what happens in this K2 Dash. Definitely.
Indeed. Much blessings to Kanye, his family, the whole nine or whatnot. You know what I mean? So yeah,
sure.
So I think we sliced that up pretty well. As usual, thank you all for tuning in. This was episode 24 of season 4, episode 99. Next week we'll be back with the season finale, episode 100. We got something great planned for you all, so definitely be looking out for that. Stay tuned to that. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you share this with everybody. Let all your people know, because I think this next season kick in and stuff like that, we're gonna be cooking or whatnot. We cooking now, but we're gonna be cooking with supreme oil. Moving forward or whatnot. Make sure you subscribe to the other channels. Make sure you hit up Calipurusha or whatnot. Brother Rod's YouTube channel. You can get to it from this channel. I got a link into it. When you click on this, you see it down there. Subscribe to Ninth Floor Films as well. Like I said, I've branched out the content. This channel is going to be primarily used for the podcast content under the with the Push It Forward Podcast Network. Ninth Floor Films is going to be all the film content. So I just re-released a project that we put together, and I'm putting it out in pieces. So a video dropped today, so make sure you go check that out, The Veg Kingdom, and we got much more to come. And of course, the next short film is coming soon or whatnot. Brother Rob, before we get out, you got anything you want to say with the people?
No, just share the videos, on your IG, on your Facebook, wherever you might roam or dwell in the digital world. Share, because these things at some point, as we're telling you, will become universal, more and more universalized. So get in on the ground floor. Make sure you are spreading the word so that people can see the power and the ability that Jyotish and Vedic astrology / sidereal astrology has.
Indeed. And shout out to everybody. Shout out to the Patreons, and shout out to all of our listeners who catch us on the audio platforms. Some of you all may not know, we actually do higher numbers on the audio platforms than we do on YouTube. From Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. We do much more numbers on those platforms. So shout out to all of them, all of our international listeners or whatnot, for all the support and everything and whatnot. And I think we're good. So we'll be back next week with the season finale. Gonna be a great episode. Thank you all for tuning in, and we are out. Peace.
Peace.